Puerto Rico. It's a little island you can drive across in a day, but in the context of the United States' relationship with Latin America,
It's so important that we had to give it its own episode.
Technically an unincorporated territory of the U.S., Puerto Ricans are U.S. citizens.
But culturally, the island is very much in Latin America.
US Postal Service mailboxes and American flags.
Clash with the Caribbean, Latin, African mishmash of music, food, traditions, and faces that make the island what it is.
Its relationship with the United States is far from harmonious, and there's a growing movement in Puerto Rico that opposes things as they are.
From rethinking a broken agricultural system
To highlighting the island's issues through punk music,
To fighting to save a beloved national tree frog.
Puerto Ricans are taking the bull by the horns.
See me down the street, but you can't get close 'cause I'm much too fast and I'm much too loud. And I'm so caught up. Now is it me or my luck you're getting?
Much about the politics and economics surrounding agriculture is out of whack, and that's put particular pressure on small-scale farming in developing countries. In many places, food security and the loss of ancestral knowledge around food cultivation is a growing concern. A lot of this has to do with the agricultural policies of the US, and nowhere are these negative effects more plainly evident than in the recent history of Puerto Rico, a once heavily agricultural island that now imports nearly all of its food. Layla Gohar grew up in Cairo, Egypt. She developed a passion for food early on, inspired by the family feasts of her childhood. The way that food brings people together motivated her career as a chef and food designer. Layla moved to New York City and turned her passion for cooking into a company, creating custom eating experiences, food installations, and pop-ups in conjunction with art, design, and fashion events. She's been featured on the pages of Vogue, T Magazine, and the Huffington Post, and has done events for clients like Barney's, Creative Time, and Zaha Hadid Architects. Layla is the perfect person to go to Puerto Rico and meet the people behind the grassroots movement that has become the country's food revolution.
This is a story about a return to agrarian roots, backed by a generation of young Puerto Ricans that are eager to see their home change for the better. Seeing how hard it was to source good produce in Puerto Rico, Tara Rodriguez decided to do something about it and opened the Departamento de la Comida, or Department of Food, in the Santurce neighborhood of San Juan. Oh, wow. Is this all made in Puerto Rico?
Yes. Basically, everything that you'll see in this space comes from local sustainable farmers. It's a volunteer-run space, and the idea is that different farmers and local artisanal producers have a space in San Juan where they can actually have their products sold for them. The way it works is all the farmers put their own prices for the produce, and we keep 33% fair trade margin. Normally, farmers get 20% of every dollar, so 20 cents per dollar of the price of their produce. So we try to switch that around here.
How do you know that their practices are sustainable?
Every single week, we go around the island in our van, picking up the vegetables from different farms. Basically, meat farmers, right, all along this red line, and we bring all that produce back here.
Seeing the map painted on Tara's wall shows me there's a small revolution going on here. It makes me want to meet the people who are making it happen. Efren Robles founded Frutos del Guacabo with his wife Angeli. It's a cooperative of 25 farms, and they're stocking some of the best kitchens in Puerto Rico right now.
Pretty much everything grows in Puerto Rico. It depends on the topography of the area. If it doesn't work here because we're so close to the beach, then we take it to the mountains because the weather is different and we let it grow there.
So you treat this like a lab. You test out the different species here and see what works.
Yeah, this is a small lab. It's just a matter of getting to know the products and we take it from there. At the moment, we have 9 products on the table, but that will be based on the demand. So the chef let us know what we need to grow.
Can I try it?
Of course. Here you go. That's watercress. That's or anything like that on your
It's
palate.
delicious, peppery.
Pepper is really good.
And what was here in this area before?
Pharmaceuticals.
One of the tipping points for Puerto Rico's decline in food production was a piece of tax code written in the 70s. Section 936 gave tax breaks to U.S. companies who set up shop in Puerto Rico. Thousands of workers, including many farmers, found higher paying jobs in manufacturing. But in the early 2000s, that tax code was phased out, and many companies left, leaving hundreds of thousands out of work. Many say this was the basis for the financial crisis Puerto Rico finds itself in now.
We got two choices. We either reinvent ourselves or we die. So we try to work with the culinary segment where we can create jobs in a very consistent way.
Next, on Outpost,
Jose Enrique is one of the most prominent figures in the new Puerto Rican food movement. Many of the new generation of farmers and chefs see the need for better, smarter government involvement in agriculture. But they're not holding their breath while it works its plans out. They're taking things into their own hands and finding ways to make Puerto Rico realize its full agricultural potential. Puerto Rico used to be one of the top coffee producers in the world. The Vatican even imported most of its coffee from here because it was so good. Now, unfortunately, most of what's consumed on the island is imported. But places like Cuatro Sombras are trying to change that and make a name for Puerto Rican coffee once again. So what are your goals with this project?
We wanted to reestablish what was being lost as a Puerto Rican brand. We restarted up this plantation in 2008 with the original variety that was here, because the hacienda was abandoned for like 60 years. We ended up doing many of the practices that were done 100 years ago with like shade-grown coffee. I mean, now the tourists come to Old San Juan and try our coffee, and they say, I want to go to the hacienda, pick the coffee, drink it in the farm. The tourism part is what's going to make us a viable business as a whole. What's going to be
Pablo wants to bring Puerto Rican coffee back into the world's spotlight. And he realizes he'll have a much better chance if Cuatro Sombras is more than just a plantation. So he's opened a high-end cafe in Old San Juan where they roast beans and train baristas on the finest equipment. It's the best way for him to showcase their product to the world. Behind this movement is a loose collective of people. A key part of its success are those making connections where there weren't before.
You'll see a lot of my dishes have fruits and vegetables that come straight from this market.
Sourcing produce for restaurants at the right time, bringing together people with similar goals, and educating the public about the incredible things that this island has to offer. Jose Enrique is one of the most prominent figures in the new Puerto Rican food movement. Sourcing whatever local produce he can for his restaurants is one of his signatures, and it's resulted in success.
So these are all locals, like local star fruit. I try and serve everything local. It's really hard. The menu's got like 40% local, 50% local. Those are days that I'm really happy. It's great. It's great for me as a cook, and it's great for the island as well.
So who's bringing this stuff? Do you have some farmers that you work with?
Yeah, these are all different farmers. I don't care what it is, you know? You grew it, it's from your farm, I'll buy it. And I try and do that with most of the local farmers.
And how do you decide what you're cooking?
Product. If they bring star fruit, then I'm making a star fruit salsa. You know, I'll probably slice this and pickle red onions and mix it. So this is suckling pig, okay? Try that. Okay.
While I don't eat meat on a regular basis, I think it is important to honor the traditions here, and one of which is cooking a whole pig on a spit.
How do you been Alexandra?
No, I've never been before.
No?
This is my first time. Oh, what's he doing now?
He's cutting the ribs. It's ready for tying in the spit.
Okay.
Okay.
There it goes up the butt.
Yeah. So you enclose the spine.
Uh-huh.
You tie it.
Finish. Looking good. We're gonna use this pig and a bunch of vegetables tonight for a party that I'm inviting the people that I have met here and that have been so kind to host me at their places.
Pasen, bienvenidos.
Hi, how are you, Big Bud? Come with me. Let's have a toast. Okay, should we do a little?
No, don't shake it.
Just a little fun. What's wrong with you guys? It's been amazing to meet all of you, and even better to have new perspective of feeling in some ways encouraged, but also kind of checking myself. It's like, what am I doing for my communities? I saw so many people that were really actively making a change. So, to you. They're just honest, hardworking people that decided to take it upon themselves and not blame or depend on the government or anybody else to make these changes. And it felt like a real privilege for me to be in their company and in their homes and in their farms. So for me, that was really touching. It was really nice. There's a lot of work to do to fix some of the bigger problems here. The economic and political dilemmas Puerto Rico is facing are pretty huge. The farm-to-table movement isn't going to fix everything, but it's a great example of how a small group of people who decide to take action can have a real impact. An impact that can continue to grow over time and change not only the way people eat, but also this island's prospects for a better life.
Up next on Outpost.
Being a punk band in a colonial island, we have a lot of things to be angry about and to tell the world about it, you know.
Puerto Rico is drowning in debt. As a U.S. territory, the island nation can't file for bankruptcy. The country owes $72 billion to lenders. That's an average of $20,000 per citizen. Over 150 schools have been closed. Taxes are up, thousands of public employees have been laid off, and according to experts, it's going to get worse before it gets better. It's no wonder there's a whole population of young people that believes the island would be better off as an independent nation. Perhaps that's why today there's a huge resurgence of punk rock music being performed across Puerto Rico. I had to see for myself how music can speak to the rage of a nation and what will come of it. Meet the Puerto Rican punks.
Some music critics say that punk rock is dead, but here in Puerto Rico, it's not just alive, it's thriving.
We came here to find out why punk and why now.
We have a sound of punk, of Puerto Rican punk, and people should know about it. Being a punk band in a colonial island, we have a lot of things to be angry about and to tell the world about it, you know.
When you look closer, you see the conditions here are ripe for a punk movement. Days before we arrived, thousands of people went out to protest gender equality being taught in public schools.
The fact that they made a march against that very, very basic concept, and it drew thousands of people, it just speaks for itself. Conformity has always been a part of Puerto Rican society. When there is injustice, the majority just stands there with their arms crossed and they're like, this sucks, but what can I do? When I found out that there was a punk scene here in Puerto Rico, I went instantly like, boom, that's where I want to be.
Pequeña Vera of Dada Berlin is one of the latest punk acts to emerge.
It can often feel a little bit weird seeing how male-dominated it is.
As one of the only female performers, she's starting to make a name for herself, evoking the riot girl tradition.
Covering myself in blood, writhing, twitching, popping my eyes out. looking like a completely insane person. It's a form of saying, if I can't own my body and my sexuality, then you can't either.
What Pequeña is doing challenges the norms on an island that's still traditional. But punk is nothing new in Puerto Rico. In the 90s, many punk bands were protesting the U.S. Navy's occupation of Vieques. Though the occupation is over, Puerto Rico's problems aren't, causing many people to lose faith in the political system.
Living here is like an act of resistance, pretty much.
We have to grow, you know, that as a nation.
As a majority of Puerto Rico is very badly educated. There's very, very bad education, and a lot of it comes through the church.
How would you like this place to change?
I'd like us to be free.
Las Ardillas are a mainstay of the punk scene, singing about their daily struggles on the island. What does punk rock mean here in Puerto Rico? What does punk mean to you?
You know, do the thing you like everybody, like what they like. Maybe that's the thing, that we are different from the whole Puerto Rican society, that we're not really...
Closed-minded.
Yeah.
But keeping the scene alive hasn't been easy. So Jose Javier Rodriguez, the band's guitarist, joined up with Kristen Fink and 2 others to open an indie music venue called Club 77.
You ready for this?
I'm ready for this.
Kristen takes me to the club for a big concert celebrating its year anniversary.
It's been great, and we're celebrating the people, the bands, and the scene here in Puerto Rico.
Are you expecting a lot of people to come tonight?
We're expecting a packed house.
I feel that I'm contributing to a change because I'm actually being vocal about these issues, making it be heard and make people talk.
Personally, I would love to see people thinking that they have the power to change the situation.
Gracias.
Coming up next on Outpost.
In Puerto Rico, a tiny little frog representing the heart of the nation has become a symbol for what's at stake. When we sit down at a table made from wood and throw open our laptop made of metal dug from the ground, we don't always think about the once untouched land these materials came from. But our hunger for precious metals and other resources has led to the devastation of ecosystems, the extinction of species, and has contributed to a changing climate. In Puerto Rico, a tiny little frog representing the heart of the nation has become a symbol for what's at stake. Puerto Ricans must now start to think about how to ensure the survival of their beloved national symbol, the coqui. Even though it's just a tiny little frog, Puerto Ricans take the coqui really, really seriously. The coqui has a big presence here. In fact, it's an issue of national identity. Here in Old San Juan, a historic center of Spanish colonial buildings and tourist attractions, you see it everywhere. Coqui coffee, coqui domino, coqui coffee mugs, coqui towel. There are coqui children's books, coqui tattoos, and songs.
Bien, gracias a ustedes.
Buen día.
¿Qué es el coqui?
Even Menudo, the famous Puerto Rican boy band from the 80s, sang about it in this movie from my childhood. It was a different time when boy bands could make a living singing about little frogs. Menudo helped put the coqui in the spotlight, but raising awareness is now more important than ever. Puerto Rico's beloved frog is under threat of extinction. So I decided to fly to a rainforest to see if I could find out what's happening to the coqui and if there's a way to save it. I've never been in a plane this small before. Very small. Scientists say global warming is causing major problems for animals like the coqui. Droughts and hotter temperatures make climate-sensitive frogs more prone to disease. I'm going to meet a husband-wife team of biologists who study the factors causing the coqui's decline, Alberto Lopez and Ana Longo. hear it everywhere. So, are you sure that the coqui's endangered?
Well, the coqui is a big word, so we're referring to all 17 species of coquis. But some species are in danger, others are threatened, and others are in a vulnerable state.
When you see amphibians all over the world just disappearing, they are bioindicators. They are like a signal that something is happening in the world.
As night falls, they take me deep into the rainforest. This is the end of the trail. Wow, we're really in the dark here. As part of their research, they count frogs and tag them. Scientists are finding that global warming is affecting their body size, which makes the pitch of the male's mating call higher and hard to hear. This does not bode well for reproduction.
So this is good to know how big they are. This one is 48.4, and just measure the weight of the bag.
What do we need to be concerned about here with these frogs diminishing?
They are a big part of birds' diets, for example, or snakes or other reptiles too. So if you take them out, then the whole ecosystem shifts, and we don't know what are the consequences yet.
We climb into some caves where Alberto swears I'll see more coquis.
Do you want to hold him?
This is a big moment for me as a Puerto Rican.
There we go. So I'm just going to put him on there. He might stay there for a quick... Whoa!
He jumped.
Yeah.
He's a jumper. He's okay, right?
He's totally fine.
I was happy to find out that the common coqui is not under threat. That's the main one you hear. Most of the others are in big trouble, but 3 kinds are already extinct. Their research is helping to boost conservation efforts. Biologists are now breeding endangered coqui frogs in captivity, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has designated critical habitats for some species on the island. It's important to get the word out, so the coqui will keep singing its nightly song.